commit, right? I am committed to become and be 100% responsible for my life, taking 100% responsible for my life. Anything that happens in my life, I am responsible for. Doesn't matter what it is. If a guy, crash into my car on the street, that's my fault. Yeah. I could have left 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, and I could have avoided the accident, right? Or maybe I was late, and whatever. You can go on with that story. But the point is that the responsibility. So I had to do that, and then I realized, okay, so if that's true, then I have the power to get out of my situation. I don't have to wait for the economy to get better. Government helped me. My neighbor, my family come to my rescue, right? Since I'm in control, I dictate where I'm going. What's going to happen next? I'm writing my own story.
The Collaborative Entrepreneur. Okay, guys, welcome back to The Collaborative Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Tracy Currington. This show, if you're watching this show for the very first time, this show is all about building partnerships that help grow our business. That's what we're trying to do. That's why it's called The Collaborative Entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is simply one that I believe just takes above the normal risks. They're willing to do what they must do in order to bring something that they have in their heart, in their head, something that they've always wanted to do, bring that forward in life. And what we do on this podcast is we collaborate with other people that are entrepreneurs. We get to understand what do they think when they think about an entrepreneur. How do they define it? And collaboration, how do they define it? But collaboration, as I think of it as different than cooperation. Cooperation, we have to be in this space. Collaboration, we get to be in this space. And even better than that, we want to be here. And we want to share our learns and our wins. And so if you've ever wanted to delve into the mind of someone that you feel in life is going places, maybe you see them on social media, maybe you see them down the road, they're your neighbor, and they seem like they're always on the go. They're always flying off to somewhere else, or they've got a business, they're growing this business, they sold that business, now they're growing another one. You think, how are they doing that? If you've ever want to delve into the mind of somebody like that, you are in the right place, my friend, because that's what we do on this show. And so I have on the call today an entrepreneur that I think he probably finds comfort in the chaos. He likes to bring things together. He is in the computer software side of things and the technical side of things. But also, I got to meet him at the same place with the 10X community with Grant Cardone, and he's also a 10X business coach. We're growing our businesses together, and I know what's going to happen on this conversation. He's going to take us to a place that we've never been before. He comes from a place that most of you on the call are unfamiliar with. And what he's doing in his business and how he's growing and the people that he's serving, no doubt he's going to drop some gems, some golden nuggets for us to take home with us that we can help introduce into our own business. And so I'm so looking forward to getting to know him better in the coming months. But on this call, I can't wait to introduce him to you. He's got a cool name, Attila. I'm like, I get to have a name like Tracy, but he gets to have a name like Attila. And not only that, his last name is Kiss. So he gets like to have this strength and beauty. I mean, this simplistic, to keep it simple, stupid, that kind of thing. He's got this simplistic last name, but this killer first name. And so Attila Kiss, welcome to the show today, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. I enjoy to be here with you today.
Awesome. And of course, everybody listening right now, you're already listening. Uh-oh, Tracy's got another one with an accent. Attila, you got to share people your story, where you're from, where you are now. Just give us the highlights of your journey from. Well, I don't want to tell the story. You get to tell the story. Tell us where you're from.
All right. So I was born and raised in Hungary. That was, the socialist era. That was before the Berlin Wall came down. So that was a whole different mindset, to live there. But I had this desire inside, like I can do better. I want more. So eventually I decided to come to the US, right? I had a rebellious, youth. I was going through like 3 high schools before I calmed down a bit. So I was able to go to college and got a degree in software engineering. I had a company in Hungary, but then when we decided to come to the US, I sold that company, so we came here. Now the kicker in that is that we just decided in August, and we were here like almost September. We were here in November, so it wasn't like a big preparation and things. Just like, all right, let's go.
Wow.
The other thing is that I did not speak English at that time. So, you know, kind of like an adventurous nature, I guess I have. So took me a little bit to pick up the language. I didn't really go to school. I started delivering flowers because I can drive, right? It doesn't require speaking.
Yeah.
You just have to read the map, drive the car, give her the flowers. Simple. But I was learning the language because I wanted to work on my own field, you know, software. But if you don't understand the requirements, it's really hard to create a software that's, you know, useful and matching what they need. But eventually I got to the point where my English was good enough, and I started working first as a network, like a network engineer, building networks, putting computers together and all those things, until my English is even improved further. So I started doing software development. I was working for a company for a while, but again, it's just not exciting for me. And also, and it's not only not exciting for me, it gets frustrating. You know, when you know that if you go to this direction, things gonna work well, but the company decides to go the other direction, and you know it's gonna be a failure, and then eventually you're right, it gets annoying. You know, it's like just, I don't want to deal with this and the company politics and all that. So I started, I become a software consultant, right? So I was doing consultation, and then I had enough clients and enough projects that I was doing only that. So I didn't have a position, a job at any companies at that point. But things didn't, you know, the 2007, 8, 9, those years were pretty rough on the consultants.
Yes, they were.
So practically I lost all my projects at that point, and I didn't have a fallback plan, right? So flat on my bottom, lost everything, you know, those stories, the rags to riches in a sense. But at that time, few things happened. That looking back now, I think it was important. One, I started asking like, why? You know, like, why is this happening to me? Like, I was such a hard worker, you know, I was working 10, 12, 20, sometimes 20 hours literally a day. I was sleeping 4 hours and I'm working all day. So despite all that, and you know, when I was a kid, I was you know, the adults, they always told me that, like, you know, hard work and then you get somewhere, you know, you're gonna be somebody at one day, right? And then I realized that hard work on its own is not gonna take you anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I was broke at that point with all the hard work, right? So then I started asking the question, and it's really, it's not the tragedy of it. It's more like the other side when I started asking why. And when you ask why, and when you ask why long enough, you start getting answers.
Yep.
Now you can choose not to listen to it and repeat the cycle, or you can choose to listen to it, and then things start changing. You start changing, right? So if you want to be somebody different than you are today, you have to give up who you are right now, because you can't be both. So that's basically what I learned at that point. If I don't want to be that person, I have to become somebody else. So I started doing personal development at that time, which led to the point that, oh, okay, I realized that I was a victim. Like, I had a victim mentality.
Wow.
Right? That did not help at all in terms of when things happens, you always feel that it happens to you. Like, it's like a big conspiracy or something that the whole world is against you, like they want to get you, right? But that's not the case. First, I think I remember I was listening to Jim Rohn. I don't know, you probably,
yes,
the guy,
yeah.
It's a classic. He was saying that you have to take 100% responsibility for your life. And even at that point, I would say, like, of course, like, who doesn't do that, right? But then he continued that anytime when you complain, when you blame, you are not taking 100% responsibility for your life.
Mm.
And then it started sinking in what he really meant. It took me a while, by the way. It wasn't just like an overnight thing that, oh, he told me next day I was taking 100% responsibility. No, it took me a while, and I had to commit, right? I am committed to become and be 100% responsible for my life, taking 100% responsibility. Anything that happens in my life, I am responsible for. Doesn't matter what it is. If a guy, crash into my car on the street, that's my fault. Yeah. I could have left 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, and I could have avoided the accident, right? Yeah, or maybe I was late, and whatever. Yeah. You can run with that story. But the point is that the responsibility. So I had to do that. And then I realized, okay, so if that's true, then I have the power to get out of my situation. I don't have to wait for the economy to get better. Government helped me. My neighbor, my family come to my rescue, right? Since I'm in control, I dictate where I'm going. What's going to happen next? I'm writing my own story. So that's what happened. And I decided at that point, I had a client I worked with before, and he just called me that, hey, we had this project together. It was great. I think this is something that other small businesses could use. And why don't you just start a business? There you go. Suddenly, when you open and when you're not wallowing in your own pain, things are happening in your life. You attracting things. You get help from God, from the universe, whoever believes in what, right?
Right.
You get help, but you have to see it and receive it and take advantage of it. You can't shy away that, no, I did that before, it's not going to work for me. You don't know. You don't see the future. And as they say in the stock market, best performance does not guarantee future performance. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the same in your life. Just because you did something before, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same in the future. If you did something good, doesn't mean it's going to continue being good. And if you did something bad, doesn't mean you can't change it and turn to be good. Mm-hmm. Right? I said, all right, let's do it. I had no money to invest, right? But I was able to negotiate a 50-50 partnership anyway.
Wow.
So we started working. Now that was grinding. Like on the beginning, literally, like the first year or two, it's like but the Grant Cardone type of door-to-door, knocking on the door. Hey, we are custom software developers. Do you need any software development?
Yes.
And then, what are the first things people ask? Oh, do you have any references?
Yes.
No. We are really good at what we're doing,
But we're really good. Trust us.
Trust us. But eventually, there were a couple of people who were willing to take the risk and give us a chance, right?
Yes. Right.
Slowly we started, building the business, and I was actually very happy that I teamed up with this guy, with my business partner, right? It's not just because he was in sales and I had no clue how to do sales, right? Like zero, none. It's not only that, but because he had this kind of like bulldog on a bone style, like he latches on a bone and he's just not let it go. It's like ever. He's going until somebody is actually kick him out, lock the door, call the cops on him, he's going back.
Yeah.
Right? So that just showed me that a lot of businesses give up too early, too soon. They run into obstacles. I don't have references, example, right? And then they feel that I can't surpass that hurdle. Like it's too big. Everybody's asking, and then they're not willing to do business with me. But they just didn't speak with enough people. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not the problem that no one's going to give. That whenever people start talking in absolutes, they're wrong.
Right.
So when people start saying that no one's going to work with me, like, you're wrong. Somebody, somewhere is going to work with you. You have to be persistent and consistent enough to go after them every day. And as Grant says, who has my money?
Right.
Yes. That's what it is, really. You have to find that person.
Yeah.
You know, these days a little bit different. You have social media, but back then it wasn't. Social media wasn't as strong as today, so it was more a door-to-door type of cold calling thing. But that started my my business development side of the things, right? Because I wasn't just doing the software development. I really didn't have to. But when you're a consultant, you're not running a business. You are an employee practically on a 1099.
Yeah, right.
So the boss can't tell you when to come to work, but they can put a plug on your project.
That's right. Yeah.
It's practically they fired you at that point, you know.
Uh-huh.
So once I got into the other side of this, meaning like becoming a small business, and then we have to work through things like, what do we want to do? Who do we want to work with? Who is our ideal client? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Whoever pays me, that was my idea.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But that's not true though. That's not true either, because we were working with customers who were paid us, and it was a pain for both sides. It's not our ideal client. It's not a good customer, right? So, but that's kind of like on the beginning when you're seeking or try to learn where is your place in that industry, in that business. You know? When you don't earn anything practically yet, like we had the first 6 months, we didn't make any money, literally zero. And but eventually, you know, you start making a little bit of money. Then some of these things, by the time you crystallize, right? You understand who you're looking for at least, you know. So you go after that market. You find out where these people are. Like our main target was the trade shows. I didn't mention, but our software company is mainly targeting the aerospace industry. Wow. So they have these shows, you know, like they have the different type of shows, you know, the helicopters, the big jets, the small jets, the commercial jets, the maintenance and repair, and each of them has their own show. So we said, okay, let's go there. I mean, whoever we want to work with, they are in the booths. They can't run away. I don't have to call them.
Uh-huh.
You know, like,
they intentionally came to where you are.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know we're coming, but you know, just give me a little time. They know.
they know what a trade show is. It's an opportunity for you to show off your trade.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't buy a booth space. No one would have come to us. And again, I don't want to speak with absolutes, because probably somebody would have stopped by. What are you guys doing? You know, like, but that was very unpredictable, right? So we said instead, okay, let's see who is our ideal client. You know, kind of like the avatar, right? That very popular term these days. Yeah. Back then, it's just, we know that what size of the company, how many employees they should have, you know, what's their yearly revenue. Based on that, we know that this is a good fit or not a good fit for us. So we made a list of those companies, and very purposefully we were visiting those booths, and they couldn't run away, right? So we started soliciting business that way. I tell you this, I never felt more uncomfortable in my life than those times when from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I had to visit these booths. I always felt like they're gonna chase me with like pitchforks or shovel or something, like, get the hell out of here. You know?
That's so funny. Well, okay, so Attila, I have to go. I have to take back, because you've been dropping a lot of great stuff here, and guys, I hope you're listening. I hope you remember back at the beginning when Attila said he came to the States and he didn't know the language. I don't know that Attila, I don't think us in America actually understand. I mean, because not everybody in Europe, Asia, they're at the very minimum bilingual, and at least that's been my experience. You know, for those that are in Mexico, or I mean, even French Canada, they know English and they know their native tongue or whatever. They at least know that. And in America, we know one language. And a lot of Americans don't even call it English. They just call it American. They don't even call it English language. But like, so guys, you got to understand that Attila came here. It's so much a foreign culture. that he had to, that, I mean, different from where he grew up. I mean, he gave it to us. He said he grew up in a time where the Berlin Wall is there. This is before, you know, Reagan tells Gorbachev, you know, tear down this wall. It's a whole different, and I don't think us in the West understand exactly what life was like there growing up as a youngster, being involved in just your teen years, and then building a software company, coming over here to the States, not speaking the language, you know, finishing out getting your driver's license, all of those hurdles that you had to go through. And you mentioned the term, you said you're a little bit adventurous. And I want to come back to that because recently I had Mick Hawley, our mutual friend. Mick was on my podcast, and he also said he's of course an entrepreneur too. And he also had to come from London, even though we're speaking the same language, obviously a different, you know, accent. But he said when he came here, it's a whole different culture. And he said, but he used the same word you used. So he said, I guess I'm an adventurer. And I want you to, like, I want to ask, what role do you think being adventurous plays in the life of an entrepreneur?
I think it's a very, it's not the only important factor when you're an entrepreneur, but it certainly helps. Because if you are adventurous, you kind of, you run towards fear in a sense, because like, you know, you want to jump out of an airplane, you're adventurous, right?
Yeah, right.
But it comes with fear.
Yep.
Always. But then you meet it head on. So it's almost like a challenge, like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Tell me that I don't speak English and I can go to America, can make it there. Watch me. It's kind of like that type of thing, you know. And then you jump in, and that's the adventurous part of it. That you don't overthink it, you don't analyze it, and you can call it in some cases reckless. But if you do it well, it's adventurous.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when you describe that to me, like, there's and I think I understand what people mean by, like, there's the American spirit, right? You just described the American spirit, and you're coming from Hungary over here to America. It makes me doubt the significance of American spirit. I think it's the human spirit.
It's a human spirit, yes.
Yeah, like that, like, don't tell me I can't do that. I'll show you. I mean, you know, we'll create a boat and we'll wait for a flood, or we'll, you know, we'll leave one country across the, you know, where if the earth was flat, we'll fall off the other side. We'll find land on the other side of this thing. I'm like, don't tell me it can't be done. I will create a light bulb before you know it. That's just
the big difference that I see, and it's not even cultural. It's the society and the people around you that put the limitation on you. It's kind of like, you know, you put the lid on a jar, right? You put a firework in a jar, and if you let it run, then it's just like sparkling out and all of those things. But if you put a lid on it, it's not the same effect, right? So, and when you're a child, doesn't matter where you're born, how bad your situation is, you are very open. That's the nature of a child, because you have to learn by experiencing.
Yeah.
Right? You watch how people communicate, that's how you start communicating. Watch how your parents, your grandparents, your friends, whoever is speaking about certain things, that's how you start thinking about. So you acquire and learn their beliefs and make it your own.
Yeah.
Right? So by the time you get to a certain age, you have so many masks in front of your real self, then essentially you don't even know who you are. And if you really ask that question, anybody, yourself or anybody, who are you?
Yeah.
Like most of the people, if they are not aware of themselves at all, they start saying that I'm a teacher, I'm a firefighter, I'm a whatever. Sure. Then it's like total ego level, right?
But if they do.
Right. But if they have a little awareness, then they suddenly start thinking like, really, who am I? How can I put it in terms? How can I phrase this? Right? And you can't really, like, if as soon as you put it in words, that's not who you are, because technically you cannot put it in words. You have to know it, and that's the knowing part, and that's when you kind of what people sometimes call the enlightenment part, right? You actually know who you are. But you're never going to be able to put it in words. You can call it that I am, my higher self. Yeah, yes and no. Like it's always something there. But the point is that society, your family, your circle, they say that like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. That's because you take on all of their good and bad habits. Yeah. And if you have people around you who have mostly good habits, then you're good. If you have people who mostly have bad habits, you're gonna take that on too. So for me, it was a good thing that I came to the US and I didn't speak the language for 2 reasons. One, I cut ties in a sense with the Hungarian way, right? That mindset, that thinking, and I started learning a new way, a new thing. Yeah. But 2, I didn't speak the language, so I had time to absorb what's around me and kind of pick that I don't like that and I like this. If I would have understood everything right away, that would, I think, quickly put limitations on me, because people would have told me that, oh, you can't do that. You don't do it this way. Here in the US, that's not a good thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't know. So I did, but at the time I thought it's the best for me. I don't speak English and you call an ad. I mean, communication is hard. That's cold calling. So it's like you want to cold call somebody in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Now what you do, and you have to make the sale. Because I had to get that job, right? So these are the things when you surpass your beliefs and the limitations that you picked up until that point. Yeah. Because there's no other way to move forward but shredding all of those. Yeah. And how interesting is that point, that next few years, it was like a trajectory upwards, like it's a growth in every way. My personality, like my personal growth, the language, just generally, the new culture and everything. So you grow, you become a different person. But eventually now you start again picking up who is around you, right? And then that leads you to another wall, another challenge, another big flop, if like in my case, right? And then you switch. So I think it is if somebody can do it, it's a good thing to even just move away from where you live, right? If you live in New York, and you live there in your entire life in New York, move to Florida, move to California, move to Ohio, Idaho, whatever. Move somewhere where you don't know anybody. Yeah. And start your life. So good. Because that forces you to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. I noticed, that's why actually I lived in New York for a long time, but I moved down to Florida, Miami, because I felt that, I don't know if you ever use that analogy here in the US, but in Hungary we use it a lot. It's like if you take a frog and you put the frog in cold water, and then you put the frog on the stove and you turn up the heat, yes, and you warm the water slow enough, the frog is actually going to boil. Never going to jump out. Now, if you drop a frog in a hot water, it jumps out immediately, right? But if it's slow, it kind of increases the comfort zone to that level, and it's okay. Even if it's bad, that's my comfort zone. It's okay. Yeah. And I don't want to give it up. And people who are in bad situations, who has trauma in their life, that's their comfort zone. And they don't want to give it up. But if you move, if you get out of it, if you get away from it, right? And now you're alone. Now you doesn't mean alone in meaning one person, but you can move with your family. But the point is that you move out of that environment, then suddenly your vision is going to be different. You see things that you didn't see before, or you're going to be forced. Let's say, now I have to find a job, or I have to find an income source, or I have to do this, I have to do that. And then suddenly you get new energy. Yeah. And that's what I felt when I came down to New York. I got new energy. And when you get new energy, you have to build on that. It's like a spark, right? You had a spark. Now you have to start building your fire.
Yeah, right.
And when you have the spark, you make sure that no one get close enough to that spark to put it out, because people want to put out your spark.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can develop that to a raging fire, no one can touch you. No one can come near to you, right? And they just envy you from the far. Oh, look at how nice, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I could do that. Yeah, you could, but you have to do the same thing what I did or somebody else. I mean, not me personally, only, but anybody who's successful, as they say, success leave clues, so follow the clues.
Right. Yeah. I heard a speaker, I guess he would have been in about the 19th century, and they came to him, and it was well known, and he would hold audiences, some 20,000 people would come. I mean, this is like in the days before, big microphones and stuff like that, the electronics that we have today. And people interviewed him and they asked him, like, what's the big deal? Why do people come to hear you speak? And he said, well, I just come and set myself on fire and people come to watch me burn.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I agree.
In effect, what you were saying about that spark and build it into a blaze, and then people will come and at first they won't understand because that spark is interrupting their darkness or their ignorance or whatever. And then it's like kind of getting in the way and it's bright, like stop doing that. And then all of a sudden they're like, man, that's really interesting. And now they want to join your team because you're on fire. You're going places.
Yes. And then also the other thing is when you're on fire, that also comes across as like very passionate, right? And passion is always something that contagious. So that speaker who you're referring to, that fire also was passion.
Yeah, sure.
And passion is captivating. And any speaker who you ever listen to, and if you think back, who was the speaker that you were like sitting like this, oh my God, this is so great, like, or you were like couldn't even look up because you're writing so much because it was passionate, it was captivating, like. I need this. I want to hear this. I need this energy.
Mm-hmm.
This is energy. Everything is energy.
Yeah, love that. So, guys, I just want to recap these things because when you said something about finding your place in the industry, and I was thinking about that you painted a picture for me of this young man coming to the States from Hungary. You found your place over there. You come to the States. Don't tell me that I can't do it because I can do it here even without knowing the language. And then begin to find your place. And then you stay in New York. You come down to Miami, and then finding your place. And then we kind of touched on the place and the role of adventure, how that plays a part. And you said something that I thought I'd never heard it this way before, but and that's why I want to bring it back up. The role that ignorance kind of plays in the life of an entrepreneur, that when you don't know not to do it that way.
Right.
Go ahead and try it anyway, because you don't know yet what you don't know. And like you said, one of the things you were grateful for not knowing the English language, you had to absorb things in real time out of ignorance because you didn't know any better. Because if you would have come in, knew the culture, knew the language, you would have already had your mindset already fixed for you. Instead, you got to come in and absorb it as a sponge and find out what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work. And I think in the life of an entrepreneur, you said three things: that captivating passion has to be a part of who you are, that adventurous spirit is a part, but not the whole. And then also being okay with the ignorance, being okay not knowing some things, so that not knowing could be a blessing. And it took me back to the first time I ever called on an auto dealer, a big dealership in our area. I called on the auto dealer, and it was like on a Monday. It was like the first Monday of the month, and I didn't know that was a special day or not. But according to this lady, I talked to her, and she's like, "Hey, could I give you a tip?" I said, "I would love a tip," because it was cold calling. I was so new to it, and I was just like, I was bummed to even have to do this. It was like you were talking about that fear, like your heart beating out of your chest and everything. I'm on the phone and like my voice is quivering. And she says, "Can I give you a tip?" I said, "Absolutely, please do." And she said, "The first Monday of the month in our industry is inventory day.
Mm.
And so we don't have like if you ever want to call, the best time to do that is never going to be the first Monday of the month. And I was like, now I don't know if that's true for the entire industry or not, but I mean, like what she added value, I made the call anyway. And it was a lot of courage and a lot of overcoming fear to make the call. And then she added value to me because I didn't know it. But long story short, through her, I got in contact with another guy that was there who went to another location. And I served his entire team, and I still serve him today. But like, had I thought, oh, it's the first Monday of the month, I shouldn't make that phone call, I never would have got connected with that person. So there's a role that ignorance plays in the life of an entrepreneur, of just being comfortable that you don't know.
Right. And you mentioned something, word courage, right? You had to have the courage. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have the courage.
Yeah.
And there is another thing, what also I gained from that, not knowing the language, you become very creative. Because if you feel any way entitled to anything, you're not creative. You expect, oh, this should happen this way. Oh, it's not happening that way. Maybe it's not for me, right? But in my situation, it wasn't that. Like, okay, I can't expect anything, like nothing. No one's gonna help me. I'm here alone. It's like, I have to find my way.
Yeah.
Like creativity. You think of things that you would have never thought about otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's just something that later on, and even now, I use that. Like, I kind of pretend still that I'm ignorant, even if I don't know it. But many times I don't know it. Many times I'm actually ignorant still. Like, but even if I know, and even if people would tell me that you should know better, I pretend that I'm ignorant. I don't know.
Yeah.
And as you said, many times actually something comes out of it because no one else doing it. I'm the only one ignorant enough to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or even if just pretend that ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Even if I know that I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm doing it anyway, and people kind of look at me like annoyed, like, like, what are you doing? Like, you don't know this? Like, oh no, I'm sorry. I mean, can you give me more information on this? Like how this really works? And then you already started a conversation. And they actually feel in a better position that, hey, I'm telling this guy, like, I'm in a strength position, right? And then you actually get more information out of that situation than if you would have walked in under normal circumstances, because at that point they would have just ignored you.
Yeah, I mean, like you're so right. Like if you come in and you already know, that smacks of ego, and generally speaking, people don't like ego. They don't like to be around this. And I say ego, I mean, I think if I understand ego correctly, we all communicate through a level of ego, but it only gets bad when it's a deflated ego. Like, well, I just can't do it. Well, that's a deflated ego, or an inflated ego. I'm the best there ever was, that kind of thing, like where you could be overly confident, underly confident, but somewhere in between there is right where we need to be, and being willing to be at the tip of the spear, so to speak. I mean, like, ain't nobody else out there with me.
Yeah.
I'm on the razor's edge. There's no one else out here with me because we've never been here before.
Yeah, I think when it comes to ego, I mean, the way I look at it, that ego is necessary, obviously. I mean, without ego, you can't exist in this world, right? But it's just how much you're aware of your ego, right? Some people are 100% identified with it. And that's when you feel like you are this little leaf in this big storm, and it's just blown in any directions that the wind blows, right? Because you can't see, how can you be in control? It's impossible. You can't see further or above your own ego. But once you understand that, no, ego is actually a tool. I can use my ego. Ego doesn't have, it's not me. I'm not my ego. I'm not my body. I'm not my mind, right?
Yeah.
I can use these tools, like my phone, my computer, my this, my that, my communication skills, language, all these things are tools. And ego is just one tool in your tool shed, but ego has an an ego on its own in a sense, you know.
Yes.
It wants to be in control. And it feels that if it's not in control, that it dies and it puts up a fight. And that's when people get all confused, and including me. I mean, I'm not above that. So, but that's in my experience, that ego is a very finicky thing. If you get a good handle of it, then you can convince yourself to do anything that you want to do. If you don't, then you're gonna be an uphill battle.
Right. Oh, so good. I guys, listen, I've got passion, and I wrote this down. I think this is going to be the title for this one, Attila, finding your place in your space. And I was thinking about like what you said about finding your place in your industry, but finding your, like, everybody has different facets of industry and so forth. Yeah. And you have to find your place in your space, whatever space that is, whatever level of entrepreneurship. I thought that was great, but, and you gave us basically some nuggets here, some door hooks or nails to kind of hang these things on, where passion is involved, adventure, courage, creativity, ego, and ignorance. And these are all ones that people would not normally think that this is involved in finding your place in this space that we call entrepreneurship. There's a level of adventure that you're going to have, ignorance you're going to have, just knowing what your ego is and being aware of that, to where it's not inflated or deflated, level out the ignorance. Just know that you're just not going to know everything. You gotta jump anyway. And that's so good. So let me ask you this, and just a couple more questions, and I want to honor your time, but like, I had no idea that you were so philosophical and deep. So I appreciate that so much, and I know our audience is going to love it. Tell us about when you feel stuck, when you feel overwhelmed. Because and I'm just thinking about just, a younger version of yourself, 1997, you're coming to the States, the culture's totally different. Your English is not there. No doubt in your entrepreneur journey, starting software businesses, moving from one company, going and launching out on your own due to how frustrating and annoying it was and stuff like that. What do you do, or what's a secret that you can tell us about if you get overwhelmed? This is what I've done to help myself through the times of being stuck.
Okay, that's when I use my last name. Keep it simple, stupid.
Good deal. Because
whenever I get overwhelmed, that means I'm trying to do too much and I understand not enough, right? And once I distill it down, and I always aim for the simplest solution possible. Don't overcomplicate anything. Once you find the simplest solution, then just do it. That's simple. Now you're not overwhelmed anymore.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. When I overwhelm, I immediately stop. I just sit back. Okay, let's calm down here. Let's get a grip, and let's think about it. Like, what causing this feeling? Like, why do I feel overwhelmed? Oh, I have to set up my search engine, like ads, my Google ads, and my Facebook has just shut me down, and my this and then that, and then I have 6 funnels to create, but I don't have a product. What am I going to put on the funnel? And you just suddenly you get so much information that you go to the boot camp, right? It's like fire hose, like information coming at you. Like it's like almost like, what's going on?
Yeah.
When you go home, or just generally when you're running and building your business, and ever you feel this way, that's when you take a few deep breaths, like a couple of them, and then let's see, what is the simplest step that I can take towards my goal?
Love that.
It's not like I have to hire an accountant or help, and nothing complex, right? The very simplest step. I want to go here. Now that also obviously requires that you have to know where you're going, right? you have to have a goal defined.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going, you're just going to be overwhelmed, period. That's it.
Yeah.
But if you have a goal defined, you know where you're going, then you just have to look at all of your options, right? And say, okay, if I do this, is it going to take me to that direction? Yes, no. If I do this, is it going to take me to that direction? Is this going to contribute to my achieving my goal, right? Yes, no, yes, no. And eventually you find those few that, okay, if I do this, then it is actually helping me the most. It is the simplest step, and also it is taking me towards my goal.
Good stuff. Okay, so one last question. I know on the show that I have, the audience that I have, some of them are young, some of them are, and some of them, I just had a 75-year-old man on the show, and he's starting fresh. He's starting over it's a new world for him, and so he's trying to catch up and so forth, and enter into the entrepreneur space. If they're young, old, whatever, if they're listening to the call right now, and you are given the opportunity to share one piece of advice that would help them most prepare for the entrepreneur journey ahead of them, what would it be a piece of advice you would give them?
I would say be clear on your goals and make sure that you are in any industry or any business that feeds your spark, that creates that fire, so you become passionate. Because once you become passionate about what you're doing, even if at the start that's not so obvious, then that's pulling you towards your goal.
Yeah, love that. Man, it's so great. The title is going to be great. So finding your place in your space, and you just killed it right there. Just like finding, you got to be clear about where the space that you're in, is it feeding your spark?
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's good stuff. Boy, Attila, this has been a great. I don't know how much time we spent here, but it has been outstanding, and I appreciated the time you spent with me before we even hit record, and then our time together today. It's been outstanding. Thank you so much for being on this call with me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Anytime, on a call, off a call, I would love to talk to you.
Oh, that would be my pleasure to be able to do that again. That's for sure. And by the way, thank you, audience, those that are following the Collaborative Entrepreneur. Thank you for being listeners and viewers on our podcast. You can follow me at TMC Coaching and find out more about me at tmccoaching.org. You can also, if you'd like to connect with me and find out how we can work together, maybe it's a partnering on a venture that we have, or maybe it's just simple coaching. We offer various packages for coaching. There's also other ways that we can help one another out and collaboration. Maybe you're looking to be a guest on the Collaborative Entrepreneur. I'd love to connect with you about that. You can hit me up at Tracy at tmccoaching.org, and that way we can connect and find out how I can best serve you. So until next time, like we always do when we sign off, you need to surround yourself with people just like Attila, people that are going places, that are faced with great surmounting opposition, but they're going through it with courage, passion, sometimes ignorance, adventurous spirit, and all those things. But these types of people, these entrepreneurs, they can elevate your thinking, and they can cause you actually to be inspired to dig deep and do more in your life. Yep. Thanks for joining me again. I look forward to talking to you next time.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Collaborative Entrepreneur Podcast. Be sure to like and follow and turn on notifications for future episodes launching every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're an entrepreneur wanting to be on the podcast, you can let us know by emailing us at tracy@tmccoaching.org. Let us know the industry you're in, as well as your biggest wins and learns that you've achieved along the way. If you want to find out how you can work with Tracy in other ways, you can do so on all major social media platforms under 180 Turnarounds. You can also find us on our website at 180turnarounds.com. So until next time, guys, let's win together.